Welcome to Shift, a college admissions ACT, SAT, and CLT podcast for a changing world. I'm Tyler, the founder of Achievable, and we have affordable ACT and CLT courses that include everything you need to ace your exam. A full textbook, tons of review questions backed by our memory enhancing algorithm, videos on key topics, a built in study planner, and full length practice exams. You can get a free trial at achievable.me, and if you like it, use the code podcast to get 10% off at checkout. Now, let's get started. Today we have Shellee Howard from College Ready with us. And Shellee, I'd love if you could introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Tyler. It's great to be here again. And I have some wonderful things I cannot wait to share with your listeners. It has to do with something that I'm truly passionate about. My name is Shellee Howard, and I am the founder and CEO of College Ready. And we're a very unique college consulting firm in that we really focus on the student above all things. And so when it comes to our acceptances, students have 100% gotten into the schools that they apply to because so much thought is put into preparing the student prior, their core values, their gifts, their talents, what they advocate for. So by the time they apply to college, they're like, this is quite easy.
Mhm.
And so today I'm going to share with you how you can help your child get from I don't know what I want to do to feeling very confident about what they want to do. And so I'm really excited to share with you, Tyler.
Great. Yeah, I am as well. And I wanted to say that the story that you're going to be sharing today is very near and dear to you specifically. Is that correct?
Absolutely. When my firstborn came to me and shocked me a little bit, said that he wanted to go to an Ivy League school and he wanted to be a brain surgeon. And I reminded him that I changed my major 5 times and I was the first to go to college. We had a meeting of the minds. And what I had to really help him realize is we needed to make him the best version of him, which would help him to be successful now and in the future. So it's my firstborn actually helped get this whole thing started.
Yeah. So tell me a bit about, let's go through the story. So he says he wants to go to an Ivy League school. I mean, what was your first reaction, right? Was it kind of like, okay, that's going to be really challenging, or what were you thinking?
So it was quite opposite of that. I was more of the mindset like, where's this coming from? Like I mentioned, it wasn't that he was old and wise. He was just in 8th grade and he seemed always mature for his age as the firstborn. So that didn't shock me. But I remember asking him, why brain surgery? And then, of course, why Ivy League? And he said, well, Mom, we've been serving my whole life. Like it's just part of who I am. Helping other people brings me joy. And if I get to do that every day at work, what a great life I would have. And I'm like, wow, 8th grade, like he's thinking so far ahead. And so it was more of a moment of not that I'm super proud that he's making such grandiose goals. It
Mhm.
was more proud of him for being, introspective and being like, what do I want for the rest of my life,
Right.
for my future? And so for me, I wasn't really thinking, oh, this is going to be hard or stressful. Like I didn't have any of that. I was just thinking, wow, if he really wants this, he can do whatever he wants.
Mhm.
And I think that was the difference in my mindset is it wasn't my idea and I definitely wasn't pushing him to do it. And so it was really me going, great, let's do this. And him saying, yeah, what do I need to do? And that's when I panicked.
Mhm. Right.
So, yeah, that panic turned into his passion with purpose. And is that what you want me to share?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that just like the story of kind of how this came about, what the project was, like I'd love
Yeah.
to go there next.
So it all started actually in about 3rd grade. About 3rd grade is when he really started asking, hey, can I go with you to help people, to serve? It's always been my own personal passion is to serve other people. And I said, yeah, of course. And so he would tag along and he would do what they allowed him to do. And sometimes he would say, wow, that was awful. I don't ever want to do that again. And other times he'd be like, oh my gosh, did you see that little person's face light up when we did this or that? And
Hmm.
I saw him really like getting that look in his eye that there's something more to serving versus what he's going to get out of it. And so we just continued on as part of him growing up. And then when he hit eighth grade, he's like, I want to do my own. Like, we've been doing yours my whole life, but I want to do something I want to do. And I'm like, yeah, what is it that you want to do? And he's like, well, I love soccer. And I'm like, okay. And he said, well, I love student government. I'm like, great. And he said, but I don't really know how to even start this. Can you help me? Because that's where I'm really confused. And that's where most students, they may want to do something, but it stops them. Or they don't know what to do, and a very sweet parent says, well, why don't you just do this? And they're like, well, no, because you told me that. I don't want to do that. So having them come up with their own ideas, that's step number one.
Hmm.
And the way we do that is we really help them understand who they are and what matters to them. We really start with them thinking about, what do people, who do people think I am? Who do people think that, I can be? What do I think I can do? What do I think I can't do? And they're for the very first time, they've never been asked, unless the parent is asking them these questions. This is not something that happens at school. And so we'll have some fun conversations. And with my son, his first one was soccer, soccer, soccer. He played club soccer. He played 4 years in high school. He played 4 years varsity soccer in high school. He played in Europe. Like, he was obsessed with soccer. And I said, great, what do you want to do? And he goes, Mom, it makes me really sad when I see underprivileged kids who don't have soccer boots. We call them cleats here in the US. They don't have shin guards. They don't have tall socks. They come out to the park and they play barefoot. Like, that just doesn't seem right. And I said, okay, so what do you want to do about it? And he said, well, I really think that my friends and we have a lot of extra stuff that we probably just don't need. I'd like to start with them. So he went to his high school coach and he went to his teammates and he said, hey guys, does anybody else feel like I do? Like, we use one pair of boots a season and then we kind of need a new pair. Like, do you think we can maybe polish them up and give them to kids who don't have any? And they're all like, yeah, that's such a cool idea. So he started with his team, and then his team really had a great time where they went door to door and they left these flyers for families all in their neighborhoods and said, I'll be by on Thursday and I will pick up any gently used soccer equipment that you have. And what they found is they needed pickup trucks. People were so excited to get rid of all the gently used equipment in their garages
Hmm.
that they filled up pickup trucks. And now they're like, great, what do we do with all this stuff? We had no plans of this being so big. And so my son did some research and found that there's youth leagues not very far from us of children who truly can't afford to even be a part of a youth league.
Hmm.
So he and his friends, they went and they delivered all of this gear on a weekend, and they show up and they pull up the pickup truck and they spoke to the families and said, hey, we want to give this to you.
Hmm.
And it was like Christmas. These kids were like losing their minds. They were so excited. And that's when he's like, wait a minute, these kids need lessons.
Hmm.
So he talked to his buddies and he's like, hey guys, what about if we did like a weekend clinic where we did all kinds of different drills, and we could then end with like a scrimmage and have little fun awards. And this thing like blew up. That was number one. And then his friends went to their schools and their coaches. And before you knew it, that was his freshman year. And all of these people were being affected by something he truly loved. and his friends were learning about community service. So that really just kind of was the springboard
Mhm.
to the start of him loving to serve. That right there is really the key. Until your child figures out what lights them up and who they want to serve, right? Do they want to serve young people, the elderly? Do they want to serve men, women? Like what is their thing? Everybody needs help, and who do they truly feel connected to?
Well, I think that that's a really good overview. The story I think is awesome. And I think it shows how these things can kind of come about naturally. And I also wonder how to make this into reproducible advice, I guess, right? I think that a lot of this was your son's own initiative and also kind of figuring things out as he went and identifying a need. And also, I mean, one of the best ways I think that I've seen people do projects like this is where they identify a need on one side and like a surplus on the other, right? Like the soccer equipment is a great example. Another story I heard about a student that ended up going to Stanford was that, he saw that fishermen were throwing away a bunch of fish that they didn't really deem like catch worthy, but were still like fish that they were catching in Florida. And so he just started collecting all the fish and taking it to food banks, right? And so that formula, I think, is that's the second time I've heard it. Um, but also, yeah, I mean, I guess just like for other people that are listening right now, where do you feel like you were able to get your son in that mindset and get him thinking about this on its own? I think that a lot of certainly your history of doing service work is a part of it, but I think there might be other things too.
So, I actually created a free website that parents can go to. It's called See Our Future Now. So, it's the letter C, the letter R, future now.com. And what I do is I take the parent through the mindset, because you're like, how do we reproduce this? And I've heard this for 18 years because this is really something that I've created from. It's like starting a new business for me, only I'm doing it 100 times over for these kids.
Mhm.
And so if you go there, you'll have a really good talking point to talk with your child. But keep in mind, here's the challenge. I have 4 kids of my own. Some children will be like, yes, this sounds amazing. And some of them will be like, nope, I don't have time. And that can be really frustrating for a parent. I know a lot of people have hired College Ready because I work with students hand in hand, one to one, creating their own passion with purpose projects. And because the parent is do your homework, do your chores, and now I'm asking you to do a service project. And so some students may have resistance, and I don't have any magic for that. But for the ones who are open to the idea and can see that it could be really enjoyable, the first thing I encourage you to do is to really not have an opinion. And I know that sounds odd as a parent, but you're supposed to just listen
Mhm.
without advice and just really be there for encouragement. The other thing, if you have a student who's really good at a lot of things, this becomes a big problem because they want, oh, let's do this, and they do nothing. So I always encourage that family with that student to have them just do one thing and then see how it works out. And then if it doesn't work out or they didn't enjoy it, okay, now we go on to number 2. But students who are really not gifted in just one area, they struggle with this more than students who are, say, good at math or science or English, da da da. So just kind of giving parents some years of wisdom and trying not to get frustrated. With my firstborn, that first project lit him up. And that wasn't the one that got him into Harvard.
Mm.
That's still to come. But that was the one that got him excited about what he could accomplish.
Right.
Child number 2, she had the benefit of watching her brother get excited about what he could accomplish. child number three, he was a lifeguard, and by nature, that's just a service position. And so everything he did was built off of lifeguarding and Eagle Scout. Child number four, she didn't really want to help anybody. And so she was my hardest one to convince
Mhm.
that this was something that would be really joyful. So I guess what I'm trying to say, parents, is every child is going to be ready at a different time. They're going to be open at different times. And until you can show them why it's going to benefit them, there's going to be some resistance. So, just to prepare yourself for all of that, I always coach parents that it takes a village. This just happens to be something I'm truly passionate about.
I think that was great. And yeah, I mean, I definitely think that, it's hard to have a substitute for real, genuine family culture built around it, right? But certainly, I think that you can start working on it now, right? There's no time like the
Right.
present. And I also, yeah, like you said, I mean, I think that it's important to understand that, like, even that story that you shared, that was, I thought, you know, a really compelling story that you could build a college essay around. That wasn't even the main one, right? Like, that was just another project that you guys, that, your son did. And see, it sounds like a lot of it was on his own. And sort of that
Yeah.
was where he got inspired to do the next one. And so that's, I think, another takeaway too, is like, you don't have to be like, okay, we're going to get you into college. We're going to, you know, do this whole project. And this is the big, overthink it and build it out to be too big, right? It
Mhm.
can be as simple as just, hey, I worked with my local soccer team or team that I'm already a part of, and I, got some extra stuff and I donated it, right? And it doesn't mean that that's like your one and done solution to the problem, and you can keep building on that experience.
For sure. What I like to share with families is when you make community service another thing they have to do, sign up, show up, check the box, you are not helping them at all.
Right.
Number one
You'd
is
almost
they're
be
not
better
loving it.
like do just
Hmm.
having them focus on what they do love, right? Your passion project does not have to be service
No,
necessarily.
it
Yeah.
doesn't. Yeah, it can be whatever they love. But I've just seen too many times it's backfired where, well, let's just have them tutor. Well, everybody tutors. Like, that's not wow material to share in an essay,
Mhm.
or feeding the homeless if they're terrified of the homeless. So, again, instead of thinking of it through the eyes of college, think of it through the eyes of your child. Like, what gift can you give them that will help them figure out, who do I want to lead? What do I want to change? What's important to me? And guess what? That's going to be a brilliant college essay all on its own, genuinely teaching them that your child has, empathy and tenacity and leadership and things that are truly important when they leave for college, the things that will make them successful.
Mhm. Exactly. Turns out there's not like a shortcut.
And if it's easy, parents, don't do it. That's the best advice that I can tell you. I have lots of students. I've been doing this 18 years, and they'll come to me still to this day and they're like, okay, Shellee, what do you think about this? I'm going to write letters to the military. And I said, I love it, but why?
Right.
Well, because I think colleges want me to do that. And I said, but do you know anybody in the military?
Do you have
And
any
they're like,
story?
no.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, well, what drives you? And oh, it's easy. All I have to do every now and again is write a letter. And I'm like, and that's the word that's going to keep you out of college. If it's easy, they're not going to be impressed.
Mhm. Well, and like they've seen it all before. They get tens of thousands of these per year, right? Like you're not smarter than them.
No. Yeah. They're very wise when it comes to somebody creating a story that doesn't match the student.
Mhm. Yeah, so then I mean that ties back in to kind of bring it back around, right? Like it needs to be a part of your story. And I think for your son, I think it makes a lot of sense, right? Like it started out with his, him helping you in third grade, and then he kind of in eighth grade kind of felt like he wanted to serve people as part of his like life's work. And those are things that, you tie together in the essay, and then you talk about, and then I did the soccer thing, and then I did, the thing that followed that. And I think it's just, the cohesive narrative aspect of this is super important.
Yeah, the worst thing you can do is bounce all over the place because then the admissions reader is very confused.
Hmm.
So, I mean, and as part of my son's story, he was considering by eighth grade being a brain surgeon.
Hmm.
So, as I continued to remind him, you will be serving your community for the rest of your life.
Hmm.
If you don't like serving people right now, you might want to rethink your career path.
Hmm.
And I think that made him double take on the words I was sharing with him because it was very logical and he's a left brain young man. And he's like, that makes a lot of sense.
Hmm.
I wanted to help people get their life back after, having some kind of damage. I never really thought of it as serving my community. And so once we made that connection, that's when he really got on board and he's like, oh my gosh, this is what I love to do. And he still does. He still volunteers his time and travels abroad. And
Right.
so I think it's just become part of him. But it was really the summer going into his senior year. That service project was, I believe, the icing on the cake, the final thing that really made him stand out.
Hmm.
And so I like students to understand, like you mentioned, having done one and be successful, it might be small, right?
Right.
But that's going to lead to a next bigger opportunity and more confidence. And that's what this was. So he spent the next 3 years doing things that lit him up, that he felt good about. The problem was is I wasn't truly convinced that he was ready to spend the next 12 years being a doctor,
Right.
preparing to be a doctor. So as his mom, I challenged him and I said, I'm still not fully convinced as your parent. Maybe colleges are, but I know you a little bit better and I want to see, do you realize what it takes to be a doctor, or are you really just going for the DR, right? Are you just looking to get reservations under your name?
Hmm.
And he didn't think that was very funny, but I got my point across. And he said, Mom, what am I going to do to prove it to you?
Hmm.
And that's what led him into his final project. So I love the fact that, it was not just one and done. It wasn't check the box. It was, I want to prove this. I want everybody to know that this is my decision. This is not something I've been coerced into. And there's a legacy and a path to do that.
Well, and it's like you said, it's just like you can't manufacture it. And I think that, yeah, like the outline that you just gave makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, I want to follow up here by asking if you could share the second half of the story, because you mentioned, that wasn't the main project that your son did, right? And so I'm curious kind of what the other part of it was.
So, a little backstory is my son loved to travel. So, he would do just about anything to travel. And so I said to him, I said, this is your last summer.
Hmm.
This is probably the last time we'll get to travel together. And I said, so what do you want to do? And he says, well, I only have 2 weeks. I have camp this and do that and this paper, blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay, great. He goes, Mom, you pick. And I'm like, anywhere? He says, yeah, anywhere. And so I did. We ended up going and spending several weeks in Kenya, Africa.
Hmm.
We lived with a Swahili family who spoke no English. We served in the slums of Mathare, which is one of the worst slums in the world. And my family was not really happy with me that I put myself and my son in that situation.
Yeah.
But it was life changing. We were safe. I mean, I've been to 91 countries. I definitely know how to travel. And so there was not one moment that we didn't feel safe. But were we challenged? Oh, yes, we were.
Mhm.
And so we, without going into deep detail, the goal of our trip, it wasn't a missions trip. It was a trip for him to find himself and to get clarity about, do I want to be a doctor? Well before he did pre-med. So we go to Kenya. We had some incredibly great discussions about life there, life here. And when he came back, after shedding many, many tears when we left, he was on fire. He ended up talking to the principal of his school. He was able to do a fundraising event. It was quite amazing. He built a huge wood teeter totter and put a big empty water jug on one end that said girls and a water jug on the other end that said boys. And he got on the microphone at lunch every day and he said, who cares more about the starving children in Africa?
Mhm.
And after 1 week, he raised $5,000 by just collecting money from the students and the teachers.
Wow.
That wasn't what was so amazing. When he wrote the check to the Slums of Mathari, they got their first medical facility. Very first one. They had no doctors to care for anybody. And that's when I was convinced he sees the value of having somebody to be able to care for the needs of the village.
Mhm.
He was written up as Student of the Year. He was written up in a book, and his essay made you laugh and cry and smell, and you could just feel his feelings. It was really, really impressive. He ended up getting 7 full ride offers, and I do believe it had a lot to do with that final conclusion to his story.
Yeah, I mean, I also think that, you know, I want to like say this in a way that like I want to acknowledge that that's like just the fundraiser by itself. It's like really impressive. But to me, I don't think the fundraiser was the magic bullet. And I feel like you said, doing a fundraiser standalone is like a thing that like quite a lot of other people that probably applied to Harvard have done.
Right.
For me, I think that the thing that really made that over the top, in my unprofessional opinion, because I'm just the interviewer, is the fact that there's this showing of consistent behavior over time and
Mm.
how it's like also getting more and more involved and more serious over time.
Mhm.
And showing that this is not just sort of a one-off project to look good for college. It's like this is part of the applicant's DNA and what they really believe. I don't know. What do you think about that? Like, do you agree?
Well, I do know when he interviewed for Harvard, his interviewer asked most of the questions about that experience.
Okay.
I mean, he confirmed it and he won the highest scholarship at USC. And he had a panel of judges, and they spent almost the whole time really grilling him about he came up with it. Why did he do it? So I do believe that they're looking for depth and time and proof, not that he was doing it for any other reason.
Mhm. Yeah. I think that the authenticity probably made a big difference. Certainly,
Mm.
I feel like, especially if you work at Harvard, that you can get pretty cynical about how authentic a lot of these kids are about what they're doing, right?
Sure.
Well, and I also think that, that experience, the other part of it is unique. And I think, like you said, it is like maybe a little bit more interesting, I guess, to these reviewers because it came with a bit of perceived risk. Even if you didn't feel like there was risk to you while you were doing it, it's
Mm.
certainly a lot riskier than like doing something in the United States, for instance.
Well, I do want to let families know you do not need to leave the US.
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
had
yeah.
students get into every top college without leaving the US. So I don't want people to go buy an airplane ticket and go to the slums of Mathari. Like, I mean, please don't. If that's not who you are and what you do, my son and I continue to do that to this day. But they even talked about it when he was applying to medical school. They talked about it when he was applying to residency.
Hmm.
So it was one of those things that it definitely caught the eye. Is it okay, Tyler, if I share a totally different student story so they understand like the difference, what I'm talking
Yeah, I
about?
think that'd be great. Yeah, because I think that that's
Okay.
often a trap that happens with these interviews is you hear this one
Yeah.
great story, and a lot of times I think maybe a parent will be listening and be like, well, my kid's not motivated to go like do that, so what am I gonna do, right?
Right.
So I think another
No,
perspective would be
this
awesome.
is a perfect story, kind of the yin and the yang.
Yeah.
I had a student, I won't say his name.
Hmm.
He was a very thoughtful student. And as I do with all students, I get to know them. And I said, so help me understand, like, who, if you could do anything for anybody, who would you want to do it for? And he goes, I don't even like people. And I'm like, okay, that's super helpful. Thank you for sharing that. And I said, so tell me a little bit about what you do like. And he goes, oh, I love Comic Con. And I'm going, I have no idea what that is. So I'm Googling, what is Comic Con? And I'm like, oh, you like comic books? And he was so insulted. He's like, no, it is just not comic books. It's so much more than that. And I'm like, this is so amazing. Like, tell me about this. I go, what about this do you like? He goes, me and my friends, we drive down to San Diego and we get all dressed up and it's like this huge event. And he's lit up. Like, I've never seen this young man so visually excited. And I'm like, here, I found something. I said, well, what about it? Do you really like it? He goes, well, to be honest, I like going onto eBay and I like buying old comic stuff and I like to fix it up. And then I go to Comic Con and I trade and I get so much more for it. And I'm
Right.
like, so wait a minute. You go and buy things, you fix it up, and then you sell it. So I'm thinking, would you have fun if maybe you had a little bit of seed money, investment money, and then you can go and buy things, fix it up, resell it, and donate your profits to something that matters to you? Oh, that would be amazing, Shellee. How do I do that? So we got into the weeds of how to do that. He got 3 full ride college acceptances to his top 3 schools.
Hmm.
He now has the #1 Comic Con eBay store still to this day. And this was probably like 7 years ago.
Wow.
And he had a closet in his parents' office. Now he shares an office with his parents.
Wow.
Yes. And he's still doing it. It's an amazing passion with purpose project.
Well, and that's the thing is like I think when people hear passion with purpose, I think that community service comes to the forefront of your mind, right? But it doesn't necessarily have to be community service. It does have to be something that your child genuinely really gets lit up about. And even if it's
Mhm.
something that might seem like it doesn't make any sense for a college application like Comic Con, it can. I like that story a lot. I think it's a great counterpoint. I mean, certainly when I was
Yeah. So you
growing
can
up,
see they're different.
yeah, when I was growing up, I got really excited about like video games, and everyone was like, "Don't talk about that." Like, no one wants to hear about that. And nowadays, I'd say the opposite. Like, you probably should. I ended up working in the video game industry anyway for a long time. So I think it really is about trying to get sort of tease that out of your child, and I think that's maybe how I want to kind of like move towards wrapping this conversation up is talking a bit about kind of how to have either these conversations with your child about like what their passions are or to recognize what their passions are already and be creative about how you could apply those in a way that would, become a passion with purpose project. I think that, it's going to be different for everybody, obviously, so it's going to be a little bit sort of generic advice, but I'd love to hear your take on this.
Well, first, as a parent of 4, I would really become introspective of your parenting. Because if you are not a creative thinker, this is going to be really hard for you. And it may be really uncomfortable for you. So maybe you have a sibling, their aunt, uncle, grandparent, something like that, somebody who's really good at just open minded brainstorming.
Mhm.
Entrepreneurs tend to do really well at this type of thing because we just think way out of the box. So, this is my passion. This is what I get to do at College Ready and just lights me up is help students figure out their passion. So, know yourself, know your limitations. If you are a person who sits down in front of a computer and is really good at coding, and I mean, like, I'm not good at that, like, I could never do your job,
Mhm.
I know that that would not be a good fit for me. So, the best first advice is know yourself. And if it's not you, then who? That's what I want to leave you with. But the who needs to not have judgment
Mhm.
because these
Well, and the
kids
what
need
needs
a
to not
safe
have judgment.
space.
Yeah.
Yeah, it needs to be a safe space for them to be, I don't know, I like gaming.
Mhm.
Well, what do you like about gaming? Well, I love all my friends and we have on our headsets and we're doing this thing together. And I mean, there's some really fun passion with purpose projects I've come up with that has gaming in it.
Mhm.
And it's not the only thing, but it is a connector. So I would tell families it's hard when they're your own child, because, like I said, I get that. But you really, if you want them to genuinely lean in and trust you and allow you to be part of this opportunity, you just have to, or have somebody else do it. And so I would encourage you. I'm happy to gift you 30 minutes with myself where I can help you and your child navigate this. All you have to do is go to collegereadyplan.info, and it would be my pleasure. I find it very fun. It's my happy place. If it will frustrate you, the other thing is if your teen and yourself do not have deep communications more than how was your day, fine, this is not going to be fun for you.
Mhm.
But if you do have, a relationship where you're driving an hour and a half to a soccer tournament and where you're just chatting about life, this is a beautiful way to connect.
Mhm.
So again, you've got to know what is your relationship, what is yours and your child's, and it's different for every one of your children. So there's no judgment. Some kids are just easier to communicate with than others for each parent. So my encouragement is just really know yourself,
Mhm.
know what you can bring. Because if you just start saying things to them, they may shoot it down just because it's your idea. And I know it's not right or fair, but it is what it is.
It's also just the best way to get anybody to do anything, and I think this is probably especially true for teenagers, is to incept them into thinking that it's their idea, right?
Mm,
I think this is just like it's even, it's a useful tip for almost any aspect of your life, but certainly I think that that is also the best way that you're going to get them to be self-motivated about doing the work. Because the thing is, like, we've had this whole conversation about having the idea and getting them to get to the point where they're working on one of these projects. But a lot of times, I bet you the hardest part is getting them to finish said project, right? So it's going to be
yeah,
a
we have
lot
a process
easier.
for that too.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot easier if they're like self-motivated and it's what they're really passionate about and they kind of view it as theirs.
So true.
Yeah. Was
Mhm.
there anything else that you wanted to cover today before we wrap up?
I would just encourage parents to don't wait. Starting these conversations early, fifth grade, seventh grade, ninth grade, it's never too late, but it does get harder because they get busier, right? When they're younger, you're still having lots of quality time. The older they get, once they drive, oh, this is really painful. So just think about starting small and just having a win versus going after this big, huge thing that never happens. I call them just ideas, and ideas don't get you into college. So it's important that they see that what they've done matters because, again, that's that self fulfilling prophecy of, wow, I did something, let's do more.
Mhm.
And so I just want to leave you with inspiration and encouragement. And if you're one of those parents who are like, yeah, this is not me, collegereadyplan.info, I got your back.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you so much. This has been Shift, a college admissions podcast for a changing world, hosted by Tyler from Achievable with Shellee Howard from College Ready. And you can get a free trial of Achievable's ACT and CLT courses by going to achievable.me.